You know, in finance, there's this silent force that moves entire markets, yet most people don't really understand it. Today, we're going to unmask that force: liquidity. So to really get a handle on liquidity, you've got to step away from the trading screens for a second. As this image kind of beautifully lays out, the whole concept is actually rooted in the natural world. It isn't just about money. It's a state of matter. It's that perfect middle path, between the rigidity of a solid and the total disorder of a gas. It is all about balance.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. Harmony is born from the right measure of opposing forces. For liquidity, that means finding the perfect balance between structure and movement. And when that balance gets thrown off, you get either total gridlock or complete chaos. And as we're about to see, that's exactly what happens in our financial system.
All right, so let's take this principle from the natural world and bring it into the reality of global finance, where markets, believe it or not, are governed by that exact same delicate balance and flow.
This river analogy is just perfect. On the right, a liquid market is like a deep, calm river. Big transactions can pass through with barely a ripple. But on the left, an illiquid market, it's like a shallow, rocky stream where even a small move creates these huge, destabilizing waves. And the visible currents of this whole financial river, that's global capital flows. Now, at the very heart of this global river system, there is one central artery: the US dollar. It's not just a currency, it's the financial system's bloodstream. It's the oxygen that keeps the entire global body alive and moving. When that dollar flows freely, the system thrives. But when it tightens up, even the strongest parts of the system start to feel faint.
So how do we actually measure this flow? This is the core aha moment of this whole explainer. It turns out we can break down US dollar liquidity into a surprisingly simple equation, and it's all governed by three key players.
First up, you've got the Federal Reserve. Just think of its balance sheet as the main faucet in the house. When the Fed is buying up assets, it's cranking that faucet on full blast, just flooding the system with cash, and basically encouraging everyone to drink, invest, and speculate.
Our second player is the Reverse Repo Facility, or the RRP for short. Picture this as a massive, super secure parking lot for cash. Financial institutions can park their money here overnight. But here's the crucial point. While that money is totally safe, it is completely removed from circulation. It's like a parking lot full of cars with the engines turned off. They aren't helping traffic one bit.
And last but not least, we have the Treasury General Account, the TGA. This is effectively the US government's checking account. So when the Treasury collects our taxes or sells bonds and then just lets that cash sit in this account, it's literally vacuuming liquidity right out of the private sector. When it spends that money, of course, it flows back in.
So, when you put all three of those pieces together, the faucet, the parking lot, and the piggy bank, you get this really elegant equation. Net liquidity equals the Fed's balance sheet minus the RRP minus the TGA. And this is the key takeaway, right here. What matters isn't just how much money exists, but how much money is actually allowed to move.
And look, this isn't some static formula you just write down and forget. Oh no, it's more like a living, breathing soap opera. This chart shows these three forces in action. The Fed's balance sheet is that high green line, the TGA is in red, and the RRP is that blue line that spikes up so dramatically. You can literally see them in this constant dynamic tug of war.
Okay, so that brings us right up to today, because the plot of this whole soap opera has taken a really clear turn. Things are tightening up. So let's look at the real-world consequences when this flow of liquidity starts to shrink.
And here it is. This is the net result of that whole tug of war. This chart is our USD liquidity proxy. What you're seeing is a slow but steady decline. It's not some dramatic crash. It's more like a quiet, persistent evaporation, kind of like a swimming pool in the hot sun. And markets, well, they often don't even notice until their feet hit the concrete at the bottom.
And just when you thought a simple liquidity drain was enough to worry about, geopolitics decides to come in and just throw sand in the gears. Conflict, it turns out, is a wonderfully efficient liquidity shock. It injects a massive amount of uncertainty and forces capital to just run for cover.
So what happens then? Well, naturally, all this uncertainty creates a classic flight to safety. Capital just floods into the US dollar, which strengthens it. That's the DXY, or the dollar index you see here. But this creates a paradox. A stronger dollar actually tightens global liquidity even further, especially for emerging markets. It becomes this vicious feedback loop.
So where do we actually see the cracks forming? Well, look no further than private credit.
These funds were sold as being super stable, but just look at these returns. Blue Owl Technology is down over 40%. These are not abstract numbers. These are significant, real-world losses, and it's happening as tighter credit really starts to bite.
The stress is also absolutely glaring in commercial real estate. This quote here really gets to the heart of the problem. Non-performing matured balloons, that's just a fancy way of saying that huge loans are coming due and the borrowers simply can't refinance them in this new environment. The old game of extend and pretend is officially breaking down.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, I'll just hide out in government bonds or gold. But here's the thing. In a real liquidity squeeze, even those safe havens get hit. Why? Because when investors get margin calls, they don't sell what they want to, they sell what they can. Gold and treasuries get sacrificed not because they're bad assets, but because they are the only liquid assets left to raise desperately needed cash.
All right, so this all sounds pretty grim, right? But just like in nature, when the water recedes, it's also a process of renewal. It clears away all the excess and prepares the ground for whatever's going to come next.
And this right here is the final and most crucial takeaway. We are absolutely in a time of tightening flow, a kind of financial drought. But for those who get it, who understand the equation, the players, and the consequences, this isn't a time for fear. It is a time to prepare, to watch the course of the river, and be ready to guide its inevitable return.
This whole analysis was based on the fantastic work of the Macro Butler. So if you want to dive deeper into these concepts and really understand how to navigate these changing currents, you can contact him directly at info@themacrobutler.com or visit themacrobutler.com. And that's also this explainer.